A young man from North Carolina who is trying to get his life on track winds up at a location far from his home after work one evening, and while he has interactions with several different people, he disappears before he can receive proper help. An unusual case out of the Fayetteville area reveals 2 children, one of whom is now an adult, went missing from the home of their adoptive mother, and no one seems to know exactly when they disappeared. A recent search for the 2 revealed human remains, and the details of who they belong to are ongoing. We also bring you an update on the case of Andy Tench, who went missing in March of this year from the Charlotte area and was profiled on episode 92. There is much to love about North and South Carolina, but the 2 states have also had their fair share of violent and senseless crimes over the years. From murders on the Blue Ridge Parkway, in the heart of big cities or sleepy college towns, and along the coastal waters, some of these stories may be new to you. Some may have happened in your town. Some may involve people that are still missing to this day. But all will leave you remembering to always be vigilant about the people you meet and the places you go. I'm Renee Robertson. Please join me for Missing in the Carolinas. Episode 96. What happened to Andy Sigmon and Blake and London Deven? 23-year-old Andy Sigmon was last seen on April 5, 2016, and while his family knows he is probably not still alive, they remain determined to bring their son home. Here is what we know about the circumstances surrounding Andy's disappearance. He left his place of work at Wrenwood Mills in Newton, North Carolina, on April 4, 2016, on or around 11 p.m., when his shift was supposed to end. Between 5 to 5:30 a.m., an officer with the Davie County Sheriff's Office noticed his Jeep Cherokee sitting on the side of Highway 64 East, north of Peter Hairston Road, in Advance. This location is more than an hour away from where Andy lived. Andy was coming out of the woods by the side of the road and spoke with the officer, who didn't believe Andy was in any distress. He told the young man to move on, and the officer left the scene. Andy's vehicle was found near Colamy, a historic plantation listed as a National Historic Landmark near Mocksville. The property consists of more than 2,000 acres, and later on April 5th, caretakers at Colamy called law enforcement around 2:30 p.m. to report a man on the property who seemed to be acting strangely. This man, who is now believed to have been Andy, was saying out loud that people were trying to hurt him. The caretaker told the man he would get him some water and went inside to call the police. When he came back out, the man, who wasn't wearing shoes or a shirt, was walking back into the woods. A couple named Adrian Carpenter and Timothy Keck lived near Colamy when Andy went missing. They said they were having lunch in their home when they heard their dogs barking and noticed a shirtless man outside their house. He seemed disoriented, and they called the police to see if they could get him some help. Andy went back into the woods, and although they tried to follow him, they lost sight of him in a thick area of brush. They were concerned because that night, temperatures dropped to around 25 degrees. When the police came back out to the area that afternoon, they looked at Andy's Jeep and saw that it was out of gas, missing the car battery, and catalytic converter. After an extensive search along the nearby Yadkin River that included the police, Andy's family, and search dogs, they found Andy's shirt and boots he had worn to work the previous day. The search for Andy included police dogs and a helicopter from the North Carolina Highway Patrol, but they still couldn't locate him. The Hickory Daily Record noted that the area surrounding Colamy includes a dirt path leading to a cornfield about a quarter mile from the main house. It is bookended by 2 creeks around 2,000 feet apart. 5 days after he disappeared, a retired police officer named Corporal Kim Williams went to the property with her trained search dog. They were joined by a tracker with the Central Piedmont search team named John Kelly. Kelly noticed there was a steep ravine drained by a winding creek. He spotted some marks in the dirt that made him believe someone had tried to claw his or her way back up the embankment. This is when his shirt, shoes, and a lighter that belonged to Andy were initially found. They alerted the Davie County Sheriff, and they sent a boat out to the area. Casey, the search dog, got on board, and eventually began indicating on the odor of a cadaver. They still didn't find the sign of a body, though. A year after he went missing, Andy's family held a vigil for their son, where friends and family spoke about the young man. A friend played one of his favorite songs, and they released yellow balloons. His sister Paige remembered her brother as shy, but friendly once she got to know him. Andy's father, Jody, told the Hickory Daily Record that he felt like his son got involved with the wrong group of people, and that led to his disappearance. His parents said as a young man, he loved racing dirt bikes and being around other people. But when he got to high school in Catawba County, he began experimenting with drugs. Eventually, he became addicted to opiates. He tried to get help and went into a rehabilitation center. He got out about a month before he went missing. In March of 2019, in a renewed effort to get some answers for Andy's family, local volunteers organized another search in the area of the Yadkin River. His mother had been living with terminal cancer and hoped to get some answers about her son. Unfortunately, the search of the property surrounding the river didn't turn up any new leads. Anyone with information on Andy Sigmon's whereabouts is asked to contact the Davie County Sheriff's Office at 336-751-5547 or the Center for Missing Persons at 910-232-1687. Next, I've been following an intriguing story out of the Fayetteville, North Carolina area and wanted to share some details here in case anyone knows any information that could help. It involves two children, Blake and London Deven, who were both adopted by a woman named Avante Deven. Both Blake and London, who are now a young adult and an adult, have been missing for years. This is one of those stories that will leave you with more questions than answers, and news station WRAL has been doing their best to unravel the details. The majority of what I'm sharing about this case has come from their reporting. The Fayetteville Police Department recently held a press conference sharing some details of the investigation, but also requesting help from the public on putting together a timeline of the whereabouts of Blake and London Deven in the past several years. Here's what we know so far. An infant boy named Trenton Dwayne Schuler was born in 2006 and placed into a foster home in Buncombe County near the Asheville area in May 2011. His name was changed to Blake Deven at some point. His birth mother recently told the media that he went into foster care because of abuse allegations, which she denies. She did not know he was missing until the Fayetteville police notified her in February of this year. In January 2011, Avante Deven filed a petition in a Madison County court to adopt a 7-year-old girl named Mariah Elizabeth Foster, who now goes by the name London. Her birth mother had not seen or heard from her biological daughter since 2001. The adoption was approved in March 2011. In April 2013, Avante filed a petition to adopt Blake, who would have been around 6 years old at the time. That adoption was approved just a few months later. In 2015, Avante and the two children moved across the state to Cumberland County. In 2016, they moved into a home on Eichelberger Drive near Devlin Drive. Then, in June 2019, they moved to a house on Berrydale Drive, where the family still lives. One of the reasons police are having trouble finding people who have seen Blake or London Deven is because they were apparently homeschooled. WRAL found record of a Deven Academy that lists the address for the homeschool as the same address where the family lived until June of 2019. The document showed the school opened in 2007 and in 2013 reported that 2 students were enrolled. 2019 marks the last time London Deven was seen in Fayetteville. Blake Deven has been missing since 2022, but was only recently reported missing in January of this year. He was allegedly last seen at a Walmart when he would have been between 14 and 15 years old. On April 4th, police then announced they were also looking for London Deven, who would now be 27 years old. They released a photo of her that they had, but the young woman was only around 12 in the picture. The police announced the FBI has joined the search for Blake and London Deven, but did not say whether Cumberland County Social Services was involved. They did say this investigation did not start with a 911 call, and that it's a complex investigation that will take time. At the press conference, a reporter asked if the investigation started with a 911 call, and I believe that's because Avante Deven called 911 on January 19, 2024, to report Blake missing. She said the young man had told her he was going to a Buddhist retreat, but then she never heard from him again. She said she saw him between Thanksgiving and Christmas in 2022. Before we continue, let's take a quick break for a word from our sponsors. Are you looking to level up your writing or learn a new skill? Whether you focus on nonfiction or are more inclined to creative writing, or want to learn how to put together a digital portfolio of your writing, Wow Women on Writing can help. Interested in podcasting? Check out a digital course I created called You Can Start a Podcast. During this pre-recorded webinar, you will learn the benefits of creating your own podcast, materials you need to get started, how to develop content that will keep listeners coming back for more, and ways your podcast can create supplemental income. I'll share examples of different types of podcasts, how to decide on a format, ways to handle the technology necessary for creating a podcast, how to develop your first few episodes, promotion and monetization ideas, and ways you can repurpose your podcast content. All written materials and resources are provided by me. I'll also give you a handout with information discussed in the webinar, along with suggestions for a few different types of podcasts to explore. Best of all, this webinar only costs $30. You can find it by going to wow-womenonwriting.com and clicking on the Classroom tab. I'll also post a link in the show notes. Here's your friendly PSA that if you haven't been using the skincare products from SkinxErin, you're probably doing it wrong. But it's never too late to do the right thing. The pre-cleanse oil is the best way, in my opinion, to thoroughly melt away excess makeup, sunscreen, environmental pollutants, and residual product buildup from your skin without stripping. I use their pre-cleanse oil every morning and night, followed by my daily cleanser for fresh skin. And here's another tip for the upcoming summer season. Before you go out in the sun, apply the hydrating beauty oil because it helps rehydrate the skin, reduces inflammation, and repairs the skin barrier. After spending the day in the sun, the Perfecting Night Oil accelerates healing, prevents peeling, and can quickly help a burn turn into a tan overnight. Try it. Go ahead and treat yourself with 10% off your order using my code MissingCarolinas10. I'll include a link in the show notes for you. And now, let's get back to the show. On March 28, 2024, the Fayetteville police announced they were asking for the public's help in finding Blake Deven, who would now be 17 years old. The day before that, they, along with the FBI, searched 3 different locations in Fayetteville in that search for Blake Deven. One of those homes was on Berrydale Drive, where Blake and London lived when they were children. The investigation focused on the garage and interior of the home, and some investigators were seen wearing hazmat suits. The family living at that home now has no connection to the investigation and were cooperating with the search. WRAL found a neighbor on Berrydale Drive who said he had not seen the children since around 2018, and he could not say for sure whether the teen girl that used to live there was the same one as in London's photograph, because she was so young in that. He said he knew the woman that lived in the house as Ava Maxwell, but police said it was Avante Deven. Why she was using a different name is a mystery. On April 12th, police announced they had found partial skeletal remains during the search for Blake and London Deven. They would not say specifically where the remains were found, or if they were connected to the missing Devens. The remains will have to undergo extensive testing, which could take weeks or months. As I was reading the details of these disappearances, I kept circling back to the Deven family, specifically Avante Deven. I have not been able to figure out if anyone else is currently living in her home with her, such as a spouse or a significant other. But on April 24th, the Fayetteville Observer reported that the Cumberland County Department of Social Services requested an emergency order of protection on behalf of 95-year-old Leonie Maxwell, the mother of Avante Deven. Leonie Maxwell is currently in a cardiac intensive care unit at Cape Fear Valley Medical Center after sustaining an anoxic brain injury, which is an injury caused by a complete lack of oxygen in the brain, in November. This court filing claims that Avante Deven is Leonie's caretaker and that she has not responded to calls from the hospital staff regarding necessary medical decisions that need to be made for her mother. These calls from the hospital appeared to have been happening around the time that police served search warrants at Avante's current home and previous home as part of that search for Blake and London Deven. The Department of Social Services says that because of her condition, Leonie Maxwell is unable to communicate, cannot consent to protective services, and no other person is able or willing to arrange for protective services. A district court judge ordered that Avante could still visit her mother in the hospital, but is not allowed to give any directives or instructions to medical personnel treating the respondent. He also added that Leonie Maxwell's assets be frozen, and said the Department of Social Services believed her finances totaling more than $15,000 were being exploited by her daughter. The judge also asked that Wells Fargo Bank turn over financial records for Leonie Maxwell for the months of February through April. This same news article further highlighted that Andy Deven is 61 years of age and was granted a divorce in 2006 after living separately from her husband for 5 years. They do not appear to have adopted any children together. Police say they are in regular contact with the members of the Deven family. Members of the news media have not been able to make contact with Andy Deven. Investigators are asking anyone who visited the Deven family at their homes on Eichelberger Drive or Berrydale Drive, whether it was to deliver something, buy something, sell something, or repair something, to contact them at 910-578-2697, or contact the FBI at 1-800-225-5324. I will share photos of Blake and London Deven on the Missing in the Carolinas social media pages. In episode 92, I discussed a missing persons case from my area, and I wanted to give an update on that case. 31-year-old Andy Tench went missing on March 24th after a night out celebrating his birthday, and his car was later found in the Monroe area about 35 miles away from his home. There were 2 receipts inside for purchases made that Monday morning. His family quickly grew worried because Andy had been scheduled to start a new job that Monday. Now, a Belmont man named Deshaun Montrell Robinson, age 26, has been charged with a number of crimes related to Andy's disappearance. In a news release, the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department said that Robinson is a person of interest in the investigation. On the morning of April 11th, members of the CMPD Homicide Division and Missing Persons detectives executed a search warrant at the residence of Deshaun Robinson, and he voluntarily accompanied police to the law enforcement center in Uptown Charlotte to speak with the detectives. He was then arrested and transferred into the custody of the Mecklenburg County Sheriff's Office and charged with the following crimes: concealment of a death, identity theft, financial card theft, financial card fraud, larceny of a motor vehicle. Detectives then met with members of Andy's family to discuss his active missing persons case. WBTV News reported that according to an arrest warrant, Deshaun Robinson told officers that he had met Andy at the bar at 316 in Dilworth, and the two had consensual sex. He also said Andy had died, and he panicked before hiding his body in a dumpster behind a Charlotte hotel. He admitted to failing to notify law enforcement of the death. Local news outlets reported Robinson used Andy's debit and credit cards at multiple businesses in North and South Carolina from March 25th through March 30th. He was captured on surveillance cameras during that time period, and items purchased during those trips were found at his home during the police search. After learning about Robinson's arrest, Andy's sister told the media their family is still holding out hope for finding Andy, and they aren't convinced Deshaun Robinson is telling the complete truth. At the bond hearing, where Robinson received a $200,000 bond, the families of both Andy Tench and Deshaun Robinson met. Robinson's father, Travis Adams, told the family his son had made a mistake and he would take ownership of it. He told WCNC that his son had been involved with drugs, but he didn't believe he was capable of murder. He believes other people were involved in the crime. Andy's family believes Robinson should be charged with murder eventually, and not just concealment of a death. I'll bring you more details on the status of this case as more information becomes available. Anyone with information related to the disappearance of Andy Tench can contact Crime Stoppers at 704-334-1600. This brings us to the conclusion of this episode of Missing in the Carolinas. If you enjoyed this episode, please do me a favor and give it a 5-star rating wherever you listen to your podcasts. We're also on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, so please like our pages and get started on a discussion of the missing people profiled on the show. Do you know of a missing persons case in North or South Carolina that you think should be covered? Email me at missinginthecarolinas@gmail.com with any details you can share. And don't forget to check out our sponsor, Wow Women on Writing, and the great programs and writing contests they have to support writers at wow-womenonwriting.com. Treat yourself to a skincare kit from SkinxErin with my code MissingCarolinas10. Cover art for this podcast was designed by Macintosh Multimedia. Sound editing is provided by Daniel Robertson. Thanks so much for listening.